We're back. Welcome to the Misreps podcast. My name's Kanal. Adam, how you doing, man? I haven't talked to you in a long time.
It's been a good 2 weeks. We had a great
I thought you were about to start singing. It's been a long day.
My dear friend.
About to start
Oh
a
no.
single tear.
No.
Paul Walker's ghost.
He's right here, right beside me. But yeah, man, it's been good. Been a good 2 weeks. I had my little birthday weekend. Celebrated that. Got to explore different parts of downtown Dallas.
You see where
And
they shot JFK?
no,
It's the only thing I know about
no.
downtown Dallas.
we went to Deep Ellum, which is like a nice old, it's like a historical part of downtown Dallas, and we got some beignets there. It was really delicious. I got a cinnabon flavored one, so I had it was like a cinnamon flavor filler for it, and then like the powdered sugar on top and all. We had tea, some cold tea with it. Basically, it was bitter, but let me tell you something that my fiance put me on, and this is just it's like something that's just been there. I just say no. When you eat something very sugary, how about you drink something bitter alongside it? It actually just it goes together because it cancels each other out, right? So I just had like tea with no sugar. I forgot what I had hibiscus tea. So I think that has like a little bit of a tad of a little small bit of like a sour taste, but like it went well with with the beignets and stuff. So had a good time there. We didn't go to the restaurants or anything like that. We just want to get some good sun after like we had like a huge rainstorm one day, but good sun. Walking around, got to see like a part of Dallas that we have not seen before. So it was pretty cool.
Didn't you guys have like tornado shit go through or something like that? Or like,
Yeah, so
yeah.
we had a day. It was literally before my birthday where it was supposed to have 80-mile-per-hour winds, like basically destructive winds as they called it, and they had a bar graph. So I was at the barber, and then on the news the guy was just the lady was like, okay, so we they have like a bar for severity, right? So like the longer and it's like red at that point, that bar is like, hey, that's severe, that's really dangerous, be on the lookout for that. And as you get lower and lower on the bar, that's like it's less severe, don't worry, it's that's nothing to worry about, right? At the top, 80-mile-per-hour winds,
Oh
destructive winds, they said.
shit.
And then they said underneath that, and like the bar lowered a little bit, but it was like baseball-sized hail, which this is confirmation from me through my fiance's worker. Those were real. They were up north, not in downtown. And then it was talking about like, yeah, flooding, and it got a little bit lower. And then they said about 3 to 4 tornadoes, and it was the lowest thing on the list. And I said, so we're not
We're just gonna glance past that.
we're gonna glance past the fact you said 3 or 4 tornadoes. Like, obviously, it's in the whole area because Tornado Alley is like we're right in Tornado Alley, if not like right below it. So of course, tornadoes can happen.
Yeah, I
And
mean that's just the middle of the country, right?
it was just very windy, heavy rains in our area, but nothing bad happened to us over here. Plus, our cars are in like parking garages, so
Yeah.
if hail comes down, we're good. How about
Yeah, that's
yourself,
like
man?
that. Yeah, that's like one of the things when I was living out there. I was like, I know how the weather in the South can get. Let,
Bipolar.
let me get that car covered. But I'm
Man.
good, man. I mean, I'm sorry if I sound a little stuffy or anything like that. I started going back to the gym, and that gym is basically like as filthy as like a Chuck E. Cheese ball pit. So I'm trying to look at it glass half full. I got to build my immune system back up after 2 years of just being locked in a in a germ free box. But for everything else for us has been pretty solid. We had a very mild snowstorm. Like it was like all of like we had like I think 8 inches dump on us overnight, and like we were just kind of like stuck in for like a little bit. It's always funny whenever we get snow up here, but because like nobody knows how to drive, and so as soon as that happens, it's just people like the roads are just a complete mess. It's never because like the conditions on the road are difficult. It's just because there's people on the roads that are just a danger to society. So we were all kind of stuck in for a little bit, but it was a pretty good, pretty mild, pretty mild snowstorm compared to what you guys had a couple years ago.
Oh yeah. Was it I guess in so, up in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, does like in terms of snow, how does that work for y'all? Cuz it seems like you just said that you had snow come down and like, oh yeah, we're in. So y'all aren't used to snow like that to the point where it's like, okay,
We
hey.
don't. It's not like we're not like I mean, we're not as unprepared as like it's not like a surprising thing as much as it used to be, right? But we
Hmm.
usually get about a few days worth of snow a year. It's not like Wisconsin where we're getting like or Buffalo like during the season where they just get like 8 feet of snow overnight and they're just like, what do we do with ourselves? It's more of like we'll get the odd hailstorm or snowstorm kind of thing, but it'd have to be more of a multitude of things happening at the same time as opposed to like a regular seasonal thing for us.
Okay. Is it like, if you get snowed in, I guess, or there's like a lot of snow, is it like, okay, school's canceled, or it's like we're delaying school, or it's like, yeah, y'all are coming to school?
It depends. So, I mean, I think this is just rule of thumb for everybody is that's usually based off of the school buses, and so the school determines whether it's a 2 hour delay or school is canceled based off of if school buses can make their routes. Because if school buses can make their routes, then people can make their routes, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so, like I think at that point, I mean, with snowplows went through pretty immediately after like it stopped, so we were clear. So, um, maybe school was canceled. Maybe they did like an online thing, but I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that, man. No, I appreciate you. This is just me just trying to learn more up there. That's all.
We'll get you up here one day.
One day.
I mean, we don't have anything as iconic as the hill that JFK got shot from, but we
I
we
mean, I
got the
mean, hey,
Seahawks.
hey, you got that. You got us on that one. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to. I'm not trying to rep like Dallas that hard now. It is fun. Don't get me wrong, but man,
Oh yeah, but let's get right into it. Right, we got some Seahawks news to talk about finally.
good Seahawks news. We finally did it. We signed Geno Smith. He has signed with the Seahawks. That is 3 years, 105 million, I believe, with 52 million guaranteed. I think you caught some extra details on
Yeah,
his
I just
deal.
saw this actually. I think it was Field Yates just tweeted this, or might have been Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport, one of those guys. Um, Contract is basically 3 years, 25 million, or 3 years, 75 million. 52 million guaranteed, I think was the number that was also thrown around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or it might have been 40. No, I believe the number was 40 million guaranteed, but 52 million is what he can make in a full calendar year. And
Mm-hmm.
so 3 years, 75, but another $30 million in incentives. Incentives like, making milestones, completions, yards, game started, making the roster, that kind of thing. Which can he if he maxes them out fully, gets 30 million. But as far as base salary goes, 3 years, $25 million a year for 3 years. It's kind of around the number that we were talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we were saying like what, like from 25 to 30, like no higher than that. So it actually works out on the lower end.
Yeah,
And it's pretty much a deal where it's basically like we're going to pay you, but we don't know if we're going to get that same magic or not year after year. So this is to protect us so we can get out of said deal while you get your money after so long.
yeah, and it's like I like the way that this is structured. This should be like the prototypical like bridge quarterback type of contract moving forward for a lot of people. If a quarterback has like a one season wonder type of thing, because he's really betting on himself. And I think that even Pete Carroll said it, like Gino's gambling a lot on himself. Like the number that Seahawks wanted to do was 3 years, 75 million, the 25 million mark, which is I think what we were saying like,
Mm-hmm.
um, a few weeks ago, a few months ago. Um, but with the incentives that are set up, if he does good, we do good. That's kind of like that, right? And so it it kind of like he still has his guaranteed money. If he hadn't gotten his start with us last year, he would have been writing out vet bin contracts on as backup QBs on multiple teams because nobody gave him a chance, right? He didn't write back though. But
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is a fantastic deal for both parties because he has the opportunity to um, get the money that he deserves, and we have our quarterback for the interim until we find maybe more of a long term solution.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, also I remember Field Yates also posted that like Geno Smith's career earnings through his first 10 seasons was about 17.55 million, but his annual value on his new contract is 35 million.
Yep.
So regardless, especially if you include incentives and stuff like that, he's on the right track to make some money finally. I'm not saying he hasn't made. I mean, hey, 10 with one, 17.55 million is a really good thing to have for us. But you know, uh,
It really
I would
doesn't.
love to have a million right now, but
No, I think the best part about this contract is that it doesn't like it will. I mean, if he hits all of incentives, yeah, we're gonna have to do some cap magic towards the end of the season just to stay under the threshold. But it doesn't prevent the team from going out and getting free agents and draft picks and getting all these guys into the team because the number that's on the books at the beginning of the season at least is only 25 million, which amounts to what, less than 10% of your, or maybe a little over 10% of your cap in
yeah.
an era where quarterbacks are taking up at least 25% of your cap, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be 35 man, but I don't think it's going to get to a point where, depending on how other contracts shake out, I don't think we're going to be hitting the cap that much. I think a lot of teams they already did like their thing with the teams where like they said what's their cap space for the given season that includes their incentives to players and all that type of stuff. I didn't really see the numbers for like Seahawks, but it was well within the margins where it's supposed to be, and I think we have enough buffer room to pay out Gino if he fulfills his like incentives of playing in the playoffs, Super Bowl, all that good stuff, right? So hey, I love that we got him contracted for 3 years at the very least. Anything kind of goes in terms of what we do in the draft this upcoming draft because one we have a top five overall pick that can go anywhere. It could be a QB, it could be an edge, it could be whatever you want it to be. Well, best player available if not a QB. So at the very least, they'll have to be behind Gino if we were to get a quarterback or otherwise. So
Yeah.
regardless, I love the deal. It's actually team friendly on the Seahawks. While at the end of the day, for Geno Smith, he gets paid.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like I was saying, like we can build around him, and that's the thing is that if he has the opportunity to maybe, I mean, maybe we'll go and sign an offensive lineman instead of drafting one, and with that money can come from the fact that up front, Gino isn't as expensive until until he hits his milestones, and so
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things, it's a help us help you type of thing, and that's the thing that you like to see because it's it's a win for all parties in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think that's what we always wanted at the end of the day, like something that satisfies both sides. So right
Yeah,
now, I'm just gonna say on to free agency, which should be next week on the 15th. It's going to be really good. So there's a lot of players out there. Hopefully, like you said, you want to sign an offensive lineman. Moving on from Gino, if you want to sign an offensive lineman of some kind, you got currently with the asterisk, you have Orlando Brown Jr. out there from KC if he's still up by the 15th. Taylor Lewan, Donovan Smith, Rodney Hudson, so on and so forth. But not a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of tackles, and I do see some centers and stuff out there. Which, oh my gosh, if we go for Rodney Hudson, I don't know, man.
dude, if we do that, I will not be. I will voice my disappointment thoroughly. I think
Oh
that's the nicest
man,
way of putting it. Just because we're doing the same shit over and over again, man. We just keep finding these like vets that are on the tail end of their careers. We need to build long term. The trenches are important.
yeah. I mean, there's some young players out there and stuff we can probably pull at guard and stuff like that. But in terms of like how they play and if they fit in our system, that's just gonna have to be left up to the good old GM and Pete Carroll, right? Good old John Schneider and them.
Good old John Schneider. Hey, I mean, they kind of earned our trust back last year, and so I think giving them the benefit of the doubt is due again.
Yeah, but other than that, what else you got for us on any other releases and things of that nature for free agency?
Yeah, well, really quick. Well, I mean, at the time of this recording, the only name that I've seen so far, I don't know if you've seen anyone else, is Ugo Amadi signed with the Saints. He was kind of a rotational player for us at that nickel, free safety type of role.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, kind of fell down the pecking order with other guys that were on the team. So good to see that he's over in a place where he maybe will get some more minutes. But that's the only release or player that we haven't retained at least so far. We haven't actually gotten into that part of free agency or the off season where heads start rolling.
It wasn't Ugo Amadi, one of our safety turn corners. I know we had Trey Flowers, but I'm trying to remember if Ugo Amadi was
He was,
also.
I think he was like I think he was a safety that played nickel. I think so. Or maybe he'd be. I think he was in that three safety set. Like before
Yeah,
before it was a three safety set like we had last year that we are trying to do kind of thing. You know what I mean?
yeah, we were rotating that slot corner position, especially with who was it? Was it Kobe Bryant that was playing that position for us, or was it Trey Brown?
Kobe Bryant last year, yeah.
Okay, because I know we were waiting on Trey Brown to get back from
Yeah,
injury and
he
stuff like that. So it's just one of those things. So we had like a little bit of. I think we even had Tevin Coleman back at the slot. Was it Tevin
Justin
Coleman?
Coleman.
Justin. Oh my gosh.
Tevin
See,
Coleman's a running back.
I'm about to go all the way back. I know some fan is like, sir,
Son of
sir.
a
It's the first name that got me,
yeah,
but and the last name. Ugh. Either way, the whole name,
the whole name.
the whole name. So Justin Coleman
Yeah, and I don't know if
was.
he actually. I mean, he was great with us when we won the Super Bowl, but obviously he wasn't the same player that he was back then. So
Yeah, I remember he got a big contract after like our
I think
Super Bowl
Dallas or
win.
something, or not Dallas,
Yeah,
Detroit might have been.
yeah, either way, he definitely. I mean, he came back like just to be on our roster again, but then like just good depth at corner, which we had a really good depth, by the way. So hey, Ugo Amadi, I think it's about time to let him go. He was good while he was up, and I think I remember he was actually supposed to be like a star for us, but then he got that one injury in his leg at one point, if I
Yeah, I
remember
mean
correctly.
that was him. Marquise Blair also had that injury, and
Oh my gosh, I remember that year. It
yeah,
was
it was
a
just like
terrible year.
yeah, Marquise Blair. I actually like had that like Jamal Adams type of vibes, hard hitter. Like he kind of had that like persona, but injuries, man, you can't predict
Yeah.
him when we can't. You can't predict him when you're at the combine.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very true. So, I mean, at the end of the day, here we only saw Ugo Amadi. We also have, I guess, next up, we also have some free agents out there that we are kind of looking at, hopefully to acquire. But so, of course, everyone knows for the Seahawks that we have no linebackers right now.
Jordan Brooks is injured. And Cody Barton's on free agency.
Yeah, Cody Barton's up for is up for free agency. I feel like we're going to sign him, and I think it's just a matter of like getting the numbers down. But if because we need the depth, at the very least, he'll be a depth signing. Um, so yeah, at the end of the day, we have some names out there we wanted to bring out. So we have like Tremaine Edmonds, Levante David, T.J. Edwards, David Long, and even Eric Kendricks from the Vikings are all up, as notable LBs. But one big name, the one name that Seahawks are gonna go after, Bobby Wagner. He has the
Bring him
jersey
home.
too. Come
Come,
home, Bobby.
come
I mean,
home,
you,
Bobby.
you you had a good time with the Rams, and you thought you were on a team that was supposed to go right back to the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we all saw how that happened, and we're going to definitely get into it when we talk when we go around the league for a lot of the free agency signings, and if teams were doing any roster changes, they're in rebuild mode. Cardinals are in rebuild mode, full on rebuild at this point, if not a reload. I think Cardinals can maybe. I would say they need 2 years to reload, but Rams, it's like they're sinking towards a rebuild. As we've also gotten word that some of their big players on the Rams are also up for trades.
Jalen Ramsey.
Yep. So you know how those go. That's basically just like we need picks because
Yeah.
I think our team can't win another Super Bowl the way it is.
Allen Robinson, I think I heard was on the trading block too.
Yes, he is, and I have that down for us as a talking point later on, and we'll get there. But other than that, Bobby Wagner, hopefully we can get him to like a 1 year, maybe a 2 year deal. I don't know how he feels about.
Come home, Bobby.
Yeah, just come home first, and we'll talk about everything later. Just come on back, man, because you saw what we were doing. We just need help on the defense yet
Yeah.
again.
And I think the rumor mill got churning really quick because on his Twitter banner, he changed it to like the Seattle skyline, like completely unprompted. So it's just
Where else
like
is he gonna go to that like at least knows like where the city loves him.
yeah,
To
he,
you can at least have a familiar defensive scheme because if anything, before Luke Kuechly had to retire due to his injuries and stuff like that, like Bobby Wagner was like literally like side to side with Luke Kuechly as like the greatest linebackers in the NFL, and
mhm.
he showed his ass off on the Rams especially when we faced him twice. So
Oh yeah.
please come back, Bobby.
And we didn't really mention this too in terms of
Hmm.
signings, but we one name that's no longer with the Seahawks that we should probably mention, and a new name that's come in that we should probably mention. Sean Desai is no longer part of our coaching staff. He's now on the Eagles. He's taken over the defensive coordinator position that was vacated by Pee Wee Herman, who is now the coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Man, that dude is so cringy.
Hey,
I was just like, what the
I
fuck
saw
is
all
this?
that. I was like, good luck, Cardinals.
God damn.
Hopefully you get a little something out of
You got a
there.
stepdad as a head coach.
Oliver wasn't too excited about it either, but unfortunately you just got to deal. I mean, it's either that or you're going to keep your old coach who, had a whole house and everything out there.
Yeah. So Sean Desai, he was kind of credited with a lot of our defensive turnaround. So I imagine he's gonna have a lot of success over there in Philadelphia. I'm sure he'll fit right in. I mean, he was DC for Bears for one season. I think he got fired because the whole coaching staff got fired or something
You can't
along those
control that
lines.
right there.
Yeah. And a new name that's being brought in. Brandon Jordan, pass rushing specialist.
Hmm.
Seahawks have hired him. He's worked with guys like I think Von Miller, Oliver, T.J. Watt, Jadavian Clowney, Chandler Jones, Cameron Hayward. He's worked with a lot of
Are
big
you
names.
are you trying to say something about our D line or something like that?
Yeah, and so he is like a. I mean, I think he has his own like setup, in terms of like off-season training and that kind of thing. And all
Hmm.
these guys kind of came through from in it through his setup. And so, now with guys like Uchenna Nwosu, hopefully we get more players coming in. We might be looking at a completely different front seven in terms of scheme and not just personnel.
How so with this game?
I don't know too much about him in detail, but I think I think he's more of a 3-4 guy. So we're finally bringing in more like expertise in that sort of scheme, so that because our thing last year was that we were playing a lot of people out of position, right? And so I
Yeah.
think I think he has better experience. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Clint Hurt or anything like that. It's just good to have more voice, more. It's always good to have more experience in the managers or you're the coaches room.
And what was it? And what position was he? It was pass rushing specialist, or is it just
Pass rushing,
supposed?
specifically pass rushing specialist.
Okay, because like Sean Desai also had like a assistant head coach
Yeah, he
and
was
all
like a
that.
defensive analyst or a defensive quality control. One of those guys. They come up with a lot of the things now is just like it's like building a company, right? You find the responsibilities and you figure out the title later.
Hmm.
And so Sean Desai was involved a lot with things like he had his hands in a lot of things, but they just kind of slapped the title on him.
Okay, that makes sense because like, well, one, if he's supposed to come in as a pass rushing specialist, that just shows you that we need help with our pass rush. As you can see, it's not the worst, but it's still frustrating, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think we need to show that. I think the players show that, but I think it's more about you want to make this kind of move leading up to the draft, right? Because
Hmm.
when you or even leading up to the combine, seeing all the people that are out there, so you can draft your kind of guys moving forward. You're not trying to fit square pegs in circle holes because maybe 3-4. There's no such thing as a universal 3-4 scheme. A lot of people have their own variation on where the emphasis on pressure comes from and that kind of thing. So if you get the right kind of voices in that you can think long term, I think this is probably the right move to do leading up to the draft
So what
and
you're
free
also
agency.
saying, but what you're also saying is that Seahawks take an edge with their first pick.
I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Hopefully,
hope
I don't know.
so. I hope so.
All right, just to reiterate for the audience because we haven't been on for a long time. The trenches are our areas of priority. I think on both sides of the ball. Maybe
Yes.
not in terms of like where our first four picks should go, but definitely like defensive side of the things. We wouldn't be upset if we took a wrecking ball in the with our number 5 pick.
I feel like it's time for us to have that edge rusher that everyone is scared of, and I don't know who it's going to be. With the recent stuff with Jalen Carter, which he's been, released and all that stuff. He went back to the combine, all that good stuff. So is Jalen Carter going to be there? Will he go lower? Is he still going to get picked like maybe the same area, somewhere in the top four, right? Along with Will Anderson Jr. And then, of course, there's a lot of basically, it's a strong edge
Yeah,
class this year. And my thing is, I want the Seahawks to have some piece of the pie when it comes to um, getting that edge that we've been looking for a while. I guess I will just say honestly, ever since what Frank Clark was here with the Seahawks, if not, who was with us for like that one season, then we let him go and he went to KC. The vet defensive end.
Oh, Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah, like Carlos Dunlap was really good for us, but then it was just like, yeah, no, we want to stay younger, or we don't want to pay that much. I don't know, man. I
There's
feel like
there.
there's an aversion with our team and paying not necessarily defensive linemen because they paid, I believe they paid Puna Ford already
Yep.
something, but it's like paying for those edges or like those outside line, those oddball linebackers, if you will. So
And maybe that comes down back to like why we hired a pass rush specialist, somebody to say like, hey, this guy is actually like good for us long term, right? Obviously, I mean, everybody has an eye test when they see an edge rusher, right? I mean, the very minimal eye test is how many sacks or pressures they get, but in terms of like coaching staff, how well do they set an edge? Because that's extremely important for teams that are. I mean, running the ball is becoming sexy again, like we've said time and time again. So we need that out of it, out
we,
of
we we
an
learned the
edge.
hard way that running the ball is becoming sexy again, as you can see with Josh Jacobs
Yeah,
and the
Josh
Raiders.
Jacobs, yeah, Josh Jacobs,
On the
Carolina.
anniversary of when a previous Raiders running back went hard on the Seahawks, if you
Yep,
remember,
yep. It was Bo Jackson, right?
Bo Jackson.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Fucking 300 yards he put up on us.
Beautiful,
Josh
right?
Jacobs. Why'd you have to bring?
You wish
Why'd
we
you?
read that.
Yeah, shit. I love that. Why'd you have to bring that up, man? We were so positive.
Because I mean, that's the thing. That's why Pete and, well, really Pete was saying we need more like problem guys on the D line because we don't
We
have
need
them.
menaces.
Right. We need some menaces on that line, like
Yeah,
the ones that are just like, I don't care if they cause a few flags here and there, but like, they mean business.
yeah.
Granted, I don't want no flags. Don't get me wrong. I
No,
ain't gonna put that
but
on us.
the example is always Aaron Donald, right? Because if he's always in the middle of the line, and you don't get, no matter what you throw at him, that man's a problem. We just want problems for the other team. We don't want problems for ourselves.
Straight problem. Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly. I'm with you on that one. So again, this is like historical for the Seahawks with how we have a number 5 pick. I forgot how high has it been since we've had a very high first round pick. I think it was like either 1980s, if not very early
Oh yeah,
2000s,
yeah.
if I
Me
remember
early
correctly.
2000s at best,
At best, right? So that's also why, like, whether you think it's,
or
for some
mid 2000s,
people,
I would say,
yeah,
because
whether you
we had
think
those Matt
it's
Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander years too.
2003, right? 2003, 4, or 5. It was like around that era. I think I heard
Yeah,
something about us having a very high pick. But regardless, that's why you see Pete Carroll kind of saying, like, we're gonna do our due diligence and look at these quarterbacks too, because when are we ever gonna have a number 5 overall pick? Like, that means you would have to suck
yeah.
so hard just to get to that spot.
Thank you,
And
Broncos.
right,
Let's
because if
ride.
we had a season where we had another top 5 pick, they would just let Pete Carroll out the door. Let's just be honest
Yeah.
here.
So I
Um,
mean, like in terms of quarterbacks, like the name that's been thrown around. I mean, we're skipping around a little bit when I bring this up, but
it's okay.
Anthony Richardson,
Yeah.
he completely blew up the combine. Like in terms of like his measurables. Apparently, he had like an instant rapport with Pete Carroll. My question is, at number 5, do we take him, or now that we gave Gino that contract, do we try to build our trenches?
You can still, I would say, if you man, taking him at number 5 though,
Yeah.
I get a feeling, right? So with
So
Anthony Richardson,
let me give a little preface.
oh,
My
go ahead,
assumption
go
is
ahead.
that we would take him at number 5, or whatever our first pick is, because I don't think he would drop all the way to our second pick. What's it, 19 or 20?
I feel like
If he does, maybe we would take it, but I don't
that's
know.
why I'm concerned, because like I understand because of his one, his vertical was 40 foot 5 inches. That's a best ever by a quarterback in the NFL. His broad jump was 10 feet 9 inches, also best ever by a quarterback. He is almost 6'1", 240, or 6'4", I believe.
Yeah, he's a good
Six foot
size.
4 inches, and I think like a quarter, 244 pounds, ran a 4.44 at the 40.
Yeah, and
So in terms of the
the
athleticism of him, star athlete, we already knew this, and now it's just a matter of like probably taking a year and getting his mechanics. It's not like his mechanics are like horrendous, mind you. He
we
was
just don't
playing
want.
with a bad receiver core in
He
Florida.
was
You can
putting
even
up
go look at
numbers
the
too.
film. Yes, most definitely. Especially like even when you're trying to like throw a bomb down the field and stuff like that. I saw all of that. Anthony Richardson, like he could be a good one. I actually thought he was supposed to go lower. That's also why I was like, maybe with our second pick, we pick him up after we pick an edge
Yeah,
or something like that. But now that this has happened with the combine, he might move up.
yeah, who knows? And like I like the fact that we have Gino, so that way, A, it's a mentor. B, he doesn't have to get thrown in the fire really quick because we know how badly that could screw up any young quarterback's career. Um, but yeah, that it's hard to predict how the quarterback would jumps from college to the NFL, right? If anybody could do it, then you would have guys like, you know, Zach Wilson that kind of struggle, or your Josh Rosens, those kind of guys.
So we're gonna see what happens with him as we get closer. I think his draft stock went up. Haven't heard. I think even C.J. Stroud's draft stock went up too. So basically, that's like your top three quarterbacks right there. I'm thinking Will Levis. He's going to go somewhere. That's like your four. All your four backs. Bryce Young too. There you go. So
Yeah,
that's like your four quarterbacks that everyone keeps talking about. And I also heard. I'm going to jump around a little bit real quick before we move on. That the Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker, who also had a ACL tear, he had his surgery. He's 3 months out of surgery, and doctors are also saying he should be good for the season opener. So there's also Hendon Hooker. Like, let's just say if we go like a very late pick or
yeah,
something, I understand.
like a Malik Willis was, I believe,
Third, high third,
third,
wasn't he?
high third, something like in that ballpark. That's third, fourth round pick. I
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Shoot, man, because I'm trying to remember what was it?
Actually,
NFL
if I'm
scouting
being
combine.
honest, like since we kind of have like a quarterback situation at least for the interim,
Mm-hmm. What's up?
for me using a later round, a mid to late round pick on a quarterback, that's kind of like a flyer. Just like if they do well, then fantastic. If not, then you could try again next year, type of thing.
But unfortunately, you can't always have that gem in a
Yeah,
late round pick spot, right? Granted, don't get me wrong. I feel like, because I don't know what was going to happen with Drew Lock. I have not heard anything on Drew Lock right now. He's going to be up for free agency. So I get a feeling that we'll probably, if anything, let's just say we don't go QB. Like our top picks, it's not going towards a QB. We're trying to build everything else in the team out, like, build the team before you bring a quarterback in. I think we're going to go late round, and that person's going to probably be a backup at best, if or at worst, if not like eventually get good enough to start for the team. I don't know who that is, but I feel like we're going to have a late round pick on a quarterback in the draft.
I mean, the evaluation process isn't perfect, right? I mean, you've mentioned it. I've mentioned it. The environment, the system, is so important to a quarterback's growth, so that you
The
can have guys
coaching
like
staff, you better have
the
a good
coaching
coaching
staff.
staff.
And like a coaching staff that doesn't just kind of put it all on your shoulders. I think that's what kind of threw Danny Jones's career off at the beginning, is that they kind of threw him in the fire and said, be Tom Brady, or something like that. But you have
Be the
guys like Brock
hero.
Purdy. Yeah, be the hero. But you have guys like Brock Purdy where, the game is kind of managed for them from the play calling aspect, right? Where they already know the kind of identity they have on offense, and Brock Purdy just kind of slots in as a guy that feels like responsibilities because someone's got to throw it to Debo, or someone's got to throw it to CMC, or someone's got to throw it to Kittle, right?
Yeah, basically. So we'll see what happens with the quarterbacks coming in. I just feel like I don't think we're gonna go quarterback, in my own opinion. If they take one of, like, if somehow I highly doubt Bryce Young or CJ Stroud's gonna fall. But if I know yeah, whatchamacallit, um Anthony Richardson will be there at 5, but I don't know if we'll take him that high. I wouldn't take him that high personally. I would just, man, get that edge that we owe, because I don't care if you get a quarterback, he's not going to fix the whole team. Even if he
It,
becomes really good and later, I don't. It's different when you have a high octane offense and no defense.
yeah,
So
I
that's
mean,
just what
like,
I don't want us to fall into. Is all.
and if a team is completely enamored with him and they want to, like, the name I keep seeing being thrown around for like trades is like Carolina from 9 to
Yeah,
higher up. If they want to if they want to give us like a bunch of picks to move up 4 spots, we might be able to still get, because we talked about this before we started recording, right? Where we with an edge rusher, or with whatever position, there's a set of responsibilities. In last year's draft, with how many wide receivers there are, that kind of, you could have had your pick and you would have had a good wide receiver regardless, right?
basically.
If the edge is as deep as it is like that, as the wide receiver class was last year, then moving down, you can still have some level of success and set yourself up for the future.
And that's why, like I was saying, that edge is the best draft class. It's very deep this year. So like we may not get Tyree Wilson, who I've been hearing his name has his draft stock has been going up as of late. So we could take him at 5, or we could try to trade down to 9 and see what other edge is left. But if we get more picks, so be it. Again, the edge class is deep this year. There's a lot of, if not like your blue collar, not blue collar, your blue chip defensive players. Like I think the top two would just be Will Anderson Jr. and Jalen Carter, wherever Carter will fall to. After that, you still got a solid set of edge players to pick up afterwards. So like from Clemson, from everywhere else, you have players to pick up. So I can see us trading down to 9 and we still get another. What if we get a first round pick next year, and then we just have like 2 picks this year, 2 picks next year? That
Get a
is something I
quarterback
can
next year.
see, right? And that could be something from John Schneider too. Depends on if we do trade with the Panthers if they have a bad season, but regardless, we'll still have 2 first round picks.
Not a lot of quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, come in and have a stellar first season. You can look
Trevor
through history.
Lawrence didn't, but then he had the great season afterward, which is this
Yeah,
past season.
I mean, you look at all the names, like like Joe Burrow didn't really have a good. I mean, he tore his ACL, so that's not fair.
Went to the
Zach
Super Bowl
Wilson
in the next
didn't.
season though.
He did, and
Yeah.
so we wouldn't that the 2 years later isn't what we care about. The year after is what we care about because that's the pick that you'd be getting, right. But then you got even
Facts.
like Peyton Manning had like historically awful season like in his rookie year. So
Oh man! But then they came back that year after that improvement. So because I'm not gonna say I want this one rookie right here. He's gonna save our season right now. He's not an
I mean,
Andrew Luck.
that's the kind of things that you see like on ESPN, but that's kind of a head ass way of looking at it if you're trying to just be sustainable.
Facts, facts. So just to kind of wrap up our stuff on the Seahawks, I just want us to say that I am gonna plan a mock draft. I want to do a mock draft for us.
Yeah, let's do it.
Uh, I think what we'll do is either we can have something set up for YouTube or we can just set it for the podcast. Regardless, we're gonna get a mock draft out right before. Hopefully, I'm gonna try. I want to see if we can get it up before the free agency or right after free agency started. Because I already know for Seahawks, we're gonna probably have 1 to 2 picks, like 1 to 2, not picks, but 1 to 2 like signings, and then we're just done. So we can save that cap and move it over to next year. But that's pretty much all I had on that side of things. And finally, I kind of put a little section of like who do you want to see the Seahawks get in the draft, and I saw some footage on the tight end. I think from Georgia, Darnell Washington.
Dude's a fucking animal.
Yo, because like it was funny because like they showed another tight end like doing all the same drills, and then like he was pushing sleds and stuff like that, and that tight end was just like, I can barely push it. They're like, yeah, good stuff. But then Darnell Washington said, here, hold my beer real quick. Like he just basically moved that sled like yards down the field. And I said, "You see that right there? That's the tight end the Seahawks wanted all
Oh
along."
yeah, that's sixth offensive lineman.
Oh man, I forgot I
The
forgot how
right
tall he
tackle.
is.
Yeah,
Right,
he's
the
about
right, the extra lineman that every franchise needs is in Darnell Washington. So I'm basically seeing him going up in some tight end stocks. But regardless, I think it's still a solid tight end class. Which don't be surprised if you see the Seahawks sending a late pick towards a tight end.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised either. Just because Noah Fant is a name that might be on the chopping board just for cap casualties kind of thing.
I don't think we have issues with cap on our end because we have like last time I checked, it was like 20 something or 30 something million. So it was just a matter of like signing who we can sign. Noah Fant, I thought he's under contract for another season, so he has this upcoming season, I believe, and then we can talk if he's going to stay or not. But tight ends are relatively cheap compared to some other
Unless
positions
you're
out
TJ
there.
Hawkinson,
Right. So
fourth overall.
that's all I'm just saying. Like, because I know we have TJ Hawkinson at tight end. He's been solid. He was actually getting some more play time, which I'm happy he has. And then of course, Will Disley. But then Will Disley has like ACL
Um,
tears in both of his legs.
my
So
bad. I think I crossed your wires when I was saying TJ Hawkinson. I was talking about the Vikings guy. You might be talking about Colby Parkinson.
I'm talking about Colby Parkinson. You're
I
no,
crossed your wires there a little bit.
yeah, you got me. Oh no, oh man, Hawkinson from he's on the Vikings now. He had an
Yeah,
excellent year, but
yeah,
unfortunately, it's one of the man. If the Detroit Lions kept him though
dude.
after the year that
That
they
team.
had,
What was it last year about teams turning it around after trading away like one of their best players? Like Panthers did it with CMC. Like
Oh
the
my
Lions did
gosh.
it with Hawkinson. Like that's unreal.
Right. I think that was more of like a we're not going to pay him kind of thing slash like I don't even know their cap. I don't know what their cap situation is. I know it's not as bad as other teams, but
Yeah.
it's still funny that it all happened and then like they still went on to have a good streak compared to the others. So, you know, again, Darnell Washington, he looks really good. I know he's going to go high, probably like second round to somebody cuz I don't really see a tight end. Well, actually, no, I do see a tight end going that high, but that depends on what Dallas does because Dalton Schultz is still not signed or tagged. So we'll see what happens. So don't be
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, I mean, the combine itself, I mean, it's been having like its own little moments too. Like, did you see that picture of like Bryce Young standing next to like other quarterbacks in that draft class, and he just looks like a kid,
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. Like,
Bryce
I
Young
think
is short. That's what people have been saying. He
no, but
doesn't have the size.
I think the funny bit with that is that Alabama lists his height as 6 foot, and I think he is like slightly over 5'10" at the combine. So like that's like what that was like one of the things where like shit, man, this guy's
College football,
actually.
you know, college football be lying about
Oh yeah.
certain things. Like just the weight, they might add an extra 10, 15 pounds to you.
NBA
Height,
does it
they
too all the time too. It's just
oh
like a
yeah,
thing.
man. Come on. Who doesn't do that? Because what are you gonna do? Actually, I need you to get on the scale right here.
Yeah. You got to
um,
get on the scale if you want to get in the game.
yeah, but Bryce Young, no matter what you say about him in terms of like his size and stuff, he's still gonna be like the first quarterback off the board at one or two.
Yeah.
So not one, but at two
Yeah, I
or
don't
I
see
think
Houston
three.
drafting.
No, was it two and four? Regardless, there's quarterback needy teams, and I think Houston Texans are going to still try to go hard for Bryce Young, especially when they're at number two right now, meaning that anyone can trade for that number one pick. That's the
Yeah, that's
Colts
the
could do it. You know, that's the issue. Like, do you want your rival to do it or you want you to do it? Because if you miss out, you miss out.
yeah. And if you're, I mean, like if you're a Bears fan, you're just kind of like, this is kind of a weird situation. People
Just
like, I
your
mean, like,
mouth
what if
is
you
watering over the like the
like we could
prospect
still
of picks.
yeah, because you know if Houston is offering you something that you absolutely take that if nothing else, because you're not losing out on the guy that you want because you know Houston's going to take a quarterback, right? Like that's
Well, yeah, but you're
guaranteed.
at two, but you'll be at two. It's not like you're going down to like five
That's
or
what I mean is that
six.
like
Oh my
if
gosh.
Houston is offering you like capital just for the security of being able to draft whichever quarterback they want, so that no one else trades with the Bears is what I mean.
Yeah, I wonder
Then
what
you
that would look like. Like, what would I think the trade package from two to one is not as
not
big
as
as
much,
some other ones. So at least,
but you still
obviously,
take it. That's what I mean.
yeah, you'll get another pick next year and probably like a high second round pick at. I think it's like my pick, a high second, and then a next year first for that. Going from two to one, I think that's like a typical one, unless they add more. So again, I know the Bears are going to be listening to a lot of a lot of calls, especially leading up to, and then of course on the day of,
Yeah.
if they haven't traded it yet, which they don't wait. They wait until like the day of to make those trades, just because. Um, but yeah, no. But other than that, Darnell Washington's a monster blocking tight end that can who can catch and run really fast. So I mean, hey, he's gonna. I feel like he's gonna have a good time somewhere. I wouldn't mind picking him up, and we can have him and Noah Fant as our tight end one and two. But regardless, I think we have enough tight ends, and you're not going to see us pick up one.
Oh
So
yeah.
let us go around the league.
Around the league.
Right. So first up, Jets flew out to meet with Aaron Rodgers. What do
I
you think
really
about
don't
that,
give a
bud?
shit about Aaron Rodgers, man. Actually, you know what? I found out when he was doing his little darkness therapy. He was in Southern Oregon. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on
So
down there?
basically, are you gonna? I need you to do me a favor and go and do one of these darkness retreats for me,
I can't imagine doing one of those, man.
because that man was talking about how he was pooping in darkness, and like he said it was a clean wipe in darkness. And I was like, what does that mean, Aaron? What does that mean? He was like, it was a clean wipe. It was really, yeah, really good. Clean
He
wipe.
was
I'm like,
man, lay
okay.
off the ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. He had ayahuasca too while doing it, but hey, Jets are trying to get a quarterback. They're unsatisfied with their set of quarterbacks that they have. Because Joe Flacco's not elite anymore. Once one. Zach Wilson is not the one. So yeah, I could see the Jets actually going out of their way to go and meet with Aaron Rodgers. Will he go to the Jets? I don't know. That man's gonna wait and then just hit you out of nowhere with like a I
You
did
up?
this one thing. Basically, you up.
Okay, with regards to the Jets,
Yeah.
they're as an organ as a in terms of personnel. Quarterback is pretty much, I think, the only thing that they're missing. I think that's established. I mean, they'll probably do with more, maybe some
They
depth
need
on
a
the
tackle.
trenches.
They need a
Get a
tackle
tackle. You know,
because
there are
Dwayne Brown ain't gonna hold that. He ain't gonna hold that left tackle spot for long. That's all
for
I gotta
sure.
say.
And so, with if you're just looking for like a quick plug and play, then Aaron Rodgers is probably the name, that goes out there first. Get him for a year or two and then move on, because I mean, I feel like depending on what kind of organization the Jets are. A lot of teams are doing the sell the kitchen sink so that they can win a Super Bowl now, and if they can make win now moves and put them over the top, then the results justify the means, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. It's weird to see even the possibility because of just how teams have changed over the last 5 to 10 years. Could you imagine Aaron Rodgers being a Jets, like being on the Jets in
It's
green?
weird. It's
Right?
weird.
That's just weird. Like I mean, I
Yeah,
know we're used to seeing him like at obviously in Green Bay, but like it's still weird to say, man, the Jets. Like, man, where have the Jets gone to get to where they are? To where it's like, yeah, hey, we still suck, but like we're a good improving team as you can see now. We just need that quarterback, and honestly, they got the tools. And stuff. They need the tackle. That's
they got.
literally that's why a lot of people are mocking a left tackle for them because I think they're going to make a move at quarterback in terms of a vet instead of trying to go after one. 'Cause I think all the quarterbacks are going to be gone by the time you get to the Jets pick, which it's really late. I think
Mhm.
no, it's 13.
That's not bad.
Not bad, but I don't think you're gonna have like any of the premier quarterbacks, like the top four. I'll say
Oh
the
yeah.
ones that the names that are going up and stuff like that. So that everyone wants. So hey,
Yeah, I mean,
that'll be interesting.
whatever quarterback comes in, the ones that were there last year were losing them games. So
Yes,
anybody that could just manage is gonna be an improvement.
and Aaron Rodgers can do that. I just seeing him this past season on a Green Bay team without Devontae Adams for a good chunk of the season, that was weird. So I don't know if he's going to have that same issue again if he were to go to the Jets, but that's something to be on to keep an eye on, going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson is also on that team, and so that's an enticing target. I don't know what Brees Hall's situation is, but if he can come back and be healthy, he was explosive. So they have weapons on offense. It's really just build that trench and get a quarterback to play behind him.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So I mean, again, they just need that quarterback, and let's see what happens, right?
Yep. What do you got
Next up
next?
in news, we got the Saints Alvin Kamara up for trial July 31st this year. He pled not guilty to conspiracy to commit battery, which was a misdemeanor, and substantial bodily harm, which was a felony in Nevada court.
So remind me on this situation, because I feel like it just kind of goes in and out of like the news. But isn't there a video of him just beating the shit out of someone on the street?
I didn't look into it. I mean, I didn't see that stuff on like um that's weird because like it was also three others also that pled not guilty to battery charges too, but I don't see any evidence that I can see of him like whooping someone's ass though. Although I did actually know, I actually let me stop. There was that footage that will not help him
Yeah.
that came out. It was that footage. Yeah,
And I
I'm
thought I
mixing it
heard
up.
like I thought I heard about recording of him bragging
Yes.
about whooping someone's ass too.
TMZ released that video. I remember now, and basically the trial is up there on the 31st. But at the same time, the Saints are in a position where look, Kamara is just. I'm not gonna say he's not the same, but like he's not going to be utilized the same as how Drew Brees utilized him, right? Which was a pass catching running back that he could always just say, "Well, if no one's open down the field, hey Alvin, hey
Yeah.
Alvin," So he's up for a misdemeanor and a felony count. So he could actually face time.
Yeah.
So not sure how that's gonna go, but
But I mean, I think it's just going to be one of those things that they'll have to wait and see. I mean, they got Derek Carr coming in. That's a little bit down our little sheet here, but Derek Carr is coming in. He's obviously not the same kind of quarterback that Drew Brees is, like you're saying, but obviously you don't want to lose one of your guys. So we'll see what happens with that case.
I,
But I don't have much else on
even
that.
without this happening, I felt like Alvin Kamara would have been like a cap casualty, maybe if anything, because they're way below cap, and I know they've done some stuff recently. I think they've I think they tag. No, they didn't tag. They signed. I thought they had Taysom Hill and someone else got signed to like some lower deals or something like that. If
Andy
not,
Dalton?
yeah. Or did they release them? I forget actually.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm
because
not a
now
Saints fan.
I do know Jameis Winston will be.
I
I
think
do know Jameis Winston will be a cap casualty though, and I got some news on. I have some those figures on that when we get there below. But yeah, regardless, Kamara it's up in July 31st. So I mean, if the evidence is damning, so be it at that point. Because I do remember that popped up during Pro Bowl, and then it just said, okay, let's sweep it to the side and let him play beforehand. So
and likely he'll like experience like a suspension or if anything too just for it. But speaking of suspensions,
uh
NFL
oh.
reinstated Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, the fact that he gambled like less than $10,000 or something on his team and then he got kicked out for a whole year was kind of wild for me. But it was almost as if they said he had insider knowledge. I'm like, he bet on his own
While he
team
was away from the team.
while he was away. And I'm not saying, okay, let's just say it is wrong to gamble, right? But a whole year, like, okay, I felt like it was that was like a lot. But now he's on the Jags, and that wide receiver room for the Jags, especially after the year that they had, this is really good for them.
Let's just talk about the weapons that that team has on
Talk to
offense.
me.
Trevor Lawrence start helming it off with Doug Peterson's coaching. You know, he's a different Trevor Lawrence than he
We
was
all
under
remember
Urban
that
Meyer.
31-30 game against the Chargers.
Yep, there we go. Travis Etienne at running back,
Okay.
Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram.
He was. Everyone was like, "You overpaid Christian Kirk." Christian Kirk said, "Nah, I got my money. They
I
gave me my
earned
money's worth. I earned that."
I earned that check. And Evan Ingram, franchise tagged,
hmm
and now coming in Calvin Ridley, who was arguably the best receiver on the Falcons before his whole situation.
Who was the other receiver they have? I don't know. They let him go, but Marvin, I think, was his Marvin Jones. Not Marvin Jones. What was his name? The other receiver. Hang on a
Mohamed
second.
Sanu, but that's old.
There's
Russell Gage.
no. It's they have Zay Jones right now. Marvin Jones. That's who I was thinking of. And
Okay,
Jamal. They have Jamal Agnew now. I think they have Jamal Agnew.
wasn't
No,
Jamal Agnew on the Jacks at one
he was
point?
on the Lions
Oh,
recently.
okay.
But yeah, so basically you got Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, that'll be really nice. And then you have Marvin Jones Jr., who's like a solid, like you're a solid wide receiver three. Because he was even solid as a wide receiver two for them. But and then Jamal Agnew, wide receiver four. So I think that's good. Obviously, they could probably go if they can go after another receiver, so be it. But regardless of the fact, that's pretty cool. Well, Zay Jones is their slot receiver, so he's been, I think, a little solid for them. But regardless, that's still a good receiver room to have for a young quarterback. And you at least got that tight. You have Evan Ingram at least back for another season. Which, fun fact, I might as well just talk about Evan Ingram
Ooh,
real quick.
Adam's fun facts. We haven't had Adam's fun facts for a little while.
He had a career year in Jacksonville, so he earned that. I mean, I would say he earned a bit of a contract, but I guess they just couldn't come to numbers because they've only had him for that one season. But in that one season, he had a career year, arguably the greatest season for a tight end in Jaguars franchise history. So Jaguars fans, you can talk about this, especially on YouTube with us. But he finished with a career high 73 catches for 766 yards, which was both a franchise record for Jaguars tight ends in a season. He didn't finish higher than the touchdown department, but at the very least for catches and yards, hey,
Hey, I
you know,
mean, if you find someone that works in your system, you know, you try to keep them around. So hopefully they come to a number for him.
facts. But other than that, you know, that's Calvin Ridley. We'll see when we'll see if he's still as solid as he was when he was with the Falcons, because he was really he was like the
He was great.
second. Yeah, he was the second coming of, like, I wouldn't say second coming, I'm going a little too far, but he was a good complement receiver alongside Julio Jones while he was there.
Oh
And
yeah.
then he actually took over that wide receiver one mantle when Julio Jones left, or basically kind of had to get out due to injury and stuff like that. So yeah, let's see what happens with are Jaguars your dark horse team coming into next year, or you still need to think about it?
They're going to be up there. I
They're
think
going to be
they
competitive in the
yeah.
AFC South. So,
Yeah, AFC South. God. Yeah, that's something else too.
yeah, man. So, I mean, that'll be good to watch those games. Next up, we just have some good old fashioned roster moves for that good old cap space. Carson Wentz. That man, the man, the myth, and the legend was let go by the commies.
Gasp.
Gas. No. Oh my
No.
gosh.
He
Yeah,
wasn't ready.
he was never ready.
He was never
He's
ready.
people have said that they've seen him out with his agents and that they're still trying to play in the NFL.
He
But
still has agents?
yes,
Who
and at this
represents
point,
Carson Wentz?
right at
Oh, wait,
this
wait, wait,
point though,
wait up.
who
Carson Wentz to the Jets.
I think the Jets do not want to have the same stuff that the Colts were
Fourth
having.
time's the charm, buddy.
No. Um the Jets just didn't do it with vet QBs like the Colts did. They try to do it with a lot of like rookie, if not younger quarterbacks. So what they're asking for at this point, they're going the vet route. I just wouldn't go the Carson Wentz route. I think he's
No.
proved enough that don't go to Carson Wentz. No matter what. I don't care what his agent
He
tells
lose
you.
he can lose you games.
He literally can lose you games.
That is the
Literally.
baseline. That is the baseline of what a quarterback. I mean, like multiple times he's thrown left-handed picks in the end zone. Like, come
Yep.
on,
Beautiful. Like he ended the who was it he
the
with?
Colts.
Yeah, the Colts' playoff
When
chance.
Jonathan Taylor
He
was
was facing
going,
the Jags, and the Jags were the worst team that year, and he somehow found a
lost
way.
to them
He's like,
twice, didn't he?
twice.
Yeah,
He found a way.
he found a way. You know, where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Moving on, so because we're kind of going like now we're kind of going around the league in terms of like these cap savings and free agency signings slash tags. Casey apparently is planning to release Frank Clark, the 29-year-old defensive end. You know, past Seahawks fan, not past, but Seahawks fans knows Frank Clark very well. But after they could not come together for a deal, which sounds very familiar, uh, like with us as well. Because I think it was after was it after our first or second Super Bowl when like we basically just let Frank Clark go because it was his contract year?
I think it was a year or two after our Super Bowl.
Okay, yeah. Either way, he basically came off a really great year, and we were just like, yeah, no, we got money tying up elsewhere and all that good stuff. So he went to KC, and now KC's doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like the life of a journeyman. It's kind of turning out to be right.
Yeah, he's gonna get paid somewhere else though because he was the NFL's third all-time leading postseason sack leader though. If for what
And
it's worth,
only 29. So
only 29.
he's gonna get big money if anything.
Right. At least like a 3 year deal because that's what's going to usually be for someone of his age, right? At this
Yeah,
point, because it's funny because man, I remember when Frank Clark was drafted.
yeah.
um, it's been that long already. Cardinals expect to release center Rodney Hudson, who is the vet from the Raiders, if everyone remembers that, and my receiver Robbie Anderson. Hudson actually may be retiring, as there's been stuff scene where they saw him reduce his salary to about 2 million, which is typical for players that are about to basically retire. So we'll see. He's still deciding his future. It hasn't been said yet as a recording today. And finally, of course, Robbie Anderson. I already knew that the Cardinals were going to cut him because it's a huge cap. Like you can even see this on Over the Cap. It was a huge cap saving. Cap
And that team's
saving.
in rebuild.
Yeah, that team's in rebuild. But when you can save $12 million just by cutting somebody, it's unfortunately you're a cap casualty.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
unless you're Aaron Donald.
oh yeah, unless you're Aaron Donald. Titans are also expected to release Bud Dupree, who was due 17 million this season, and he's been solid for the Titans for a long time. For everyone that knows Bud Dupree, especially for that Titans defense, because everyone knows like the Titans defense, they hit and they are like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, they're that big defense to always be hitting and like getting injured and stuff because of those big hits. But like they were basically a scrappy defensive team. Bud Dupree has been there for I think like 10 years now, if
oh,
I
no, no, no.
remember. Was it eight,
He
nine?
was on the Steelers first, but I think he was like
Oh,
3 or
that's right.
4.
He was.
But
I
no,
can.
that doesn't take anything away from how solid of a player he was.
Oh yeah, facts. He how long has he been? Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's been in the league for what is that? 8
Since
years.
2015, it looks
Yeah,
like, yeah.
about 8 years in this 8 years in. He's with the Steelers first, then got to the Titans. I feel like he had a good second comments, but like the Titans now are in rebuild mode because unfortunately they don't really have the quarterback, and we even heard rumors, or actually it was mentioned before that um, their running back is up on the trade block.
Yeah, Derrick
So
Henry's up for grabs.
King Henry is apparently, hey, if someone has a good offer for that man, you can have him, but I'm trying to think of a team that's like we have everything and now we just need Derrick
The running back.
Henry at running back.
Cowboys?
Even if you put Derrick Henry there, actually that would help Dak out a lot, but I don't know if that will solve all of their problems. They have a
No.
lot more other problems, but I don't know. That seems pretty. Oh my gosh, that's just.
You hate that I said that, didn't you?
I hate that you said that because I can see it because they do need a running back. They're running back needy. That's why they're obviously mocked up to get was it Bijan Johnson? I think it was from the UT.
Yep.
So yeah, so if they were to, I don't know what they were willing to trade though. That's the issue. So regardless, that's it for Bud Dupree and for the Titans. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to happen. Obviously, said this before, but Vikings did let go Eric Kendricks a while back, so he's out there in free agency. Going
He'll
back
land
to
on a
the
good team. He
oh
he's
yeah
still
yeah
got he's got stuff left in the tank.
Oh yeah, he'll be a good. I wouldn't mind taking him on the Seahawks, but we are running a 3-4 scheme, which I don't know if they switch. I think they switched to a 3-4 recently, if I remember correctly. But regardless, I think he'll be a good fit wherever he goes, like you
Oh yeah.
said. Um, Next up, we got the Rams. We got two for the Rams. So the first one, let's talk about uh, Allen Robertson. The Rams have given permission. So this is what we mentioned earlier. Rams have given his agent permission to talk with other teams for a trade, while and on top of the fact that the Rams will pay a portion of his $15.25 million contract. So they're just basically saying we want to get something back. We need picks. They're saying we said
We
fuck
will
them
pay for it.
picks. We said fuck them picks. Now we want those picks. Like baby, come back. Hold
Yeah,
up, I said too much, baby. Come on back. We need those picks.
yeah.
So that's one. And next up, they are also expected to release Leonard Floyd if they cannot
That's a big
trade
one.
him. Yeah, he's had about 9 sacks in the past 3 seasons, so he's been like a consistent um,
In each of the
edge.
past 3 seasons, right?
Yeah, each of the past 3 seasons, he's been consistent he's been consistent for the Rams, but it's the Rams right now they're going on a bit of a rebuild. Matthew Stafford, his injuries are stacking up too. So uh, if the Rams were to right now, let's say if they can't trade him, if they were to cut him before June 1st, that'll be 3 million in cap savings, but 19 million in dead money. But if they wait till post June 1st, 15.5 million in the cap savings and 6.5 million over 2 years. So I mean, they have a backup if they can, basically, because what they're trying to do is get a lot of cap and get some picks. That's why they say they can't trade him.
That's the formula.
Other than that, that's all I had. Unless you had any other roster moves you wanted to mention.
I haven't seen anything major else come up. Anything else major come up? So I think we could move on to free agent signings and tags because there's a bit of news in there.
News, because let's start it, because there was a quarterback with a particular team where he said, you know what, we're not talking about these contract signings right here in the beginning of the season. We're just going to get through this season. The season's going to be the season. We'll talk after. That was Lamar Jackson. And no, he was not re-signed. He was actually tagged with the Ravens, which I can actually see this happening only because the Ravens are not used to paying for the quarterback position, because last time they paid it, they got burnt with Joe Flacco
Yeah.
after his Super Bowl win. So his payout will be 32.4, I think it was 32.41 million dollars for the season. Teams can actually send in offers, which Jackson can take, and I think it was as long as they give the Ravens, I think it was 2 first round picks or something like that.
Yeah. And so
Yeah,
this is like the non-exclusive franchise tag, meaning like if another team offers Lamar Jackson a contract and Ravens don't match him, that team also has to send 2 picks. I think is the deal.
yeah. And nothing else on that one. I do know there are some teams that literally reportedly will not be pursuing Lamar Jackson,
Yeah,
which it
name
was
off
funny
those
because they
teams.
actually they actually said something like, "We're not going to pursue him. We're just not." Nah.
Which is a weird thing to do, right? Like, why, like, why would you just come out and say that? Like, what is it? What do you accomplish by saying you're not in the race for someone?
We're just trying to, like, because there's a lot of quarterback needy teams, but some of those teams are being the Falcons, the Dolphins, the Panthers, the Commanders, and finally the Raiders.
I
Which
can't believe the Commanders wouldn't go for him or the Dolphins.
I mean, do you think Lamar Jackson can fix the whole Commanders team and franchise as a whole? if he were to go there. I would, if I was Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't accept that offer. I don't. The thing is, you don't want to go from somewhere where someone's been supporting you, like the Ravens, because let's be frank, they supported him, even gave him his own offense there, and you want to go to the Commanders.
Yeah, but I mean, like you can't discount the fact that the Commanders have a lot of it's a good it's a good situation to jump into.
That's one of my teams. I personally would not want to go.
Well,
Knowing what I,
that's more of because of Dan Snyder, but like you got like Terry McLaurin as your wide receiver. You got what's his name, Brian, not Brian Robinson, or I think it's something Robinson. Who they
it just
drafted last
depends.
year.
That front office. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that front office. I'm not talking about the players themselves. I know they got some star players. Don't get me wrong. There, it's just that with the franchise where it's at, a lot of lawsuits and stuff. Like you don't know when shit's gonna hit the fan with the Commanders front office. I feel like it's gonna happen at some point because you got the FBI still investigating. They just haven't said anything about it.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things, right? Like,
I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. You think the
yeah.
Commanders gonna win a Super Bowl anytime soon?
No, but what I was trying to say is someone in that front office said it was a good idea to go out and get Carson Wentz. So you can the decision
That was
making up there.
the owner
Yeah, Dan
himself.
Snyder, but like the front office made it happen. He ain't got anybody that in that front office that's a naysayer or anything like that. To hold him in check. So if they're not the best decision makers up there. So you got a point there.
Yeah. So, well, at least they have teams that say, "Hey, we're not going after him." So, regardless, I don't know what teams would. I mean, sure, we could go after him, but I don't think we want to give up a lot of picks for him,
And
and we
after
have
we
to
got
pay him too.
like down for a couple years, like
Right. It's not going to be the Seahawks,
it
obviously,
just doesn't
but
make sense.
it would be something to think about, if we had Lamar Jackson. Just he is a good player, in my opinion.
But
So,
we ain't playing
regardless.
Madden, right? So I mean, we gotta live with the Seahawks even after next season.
What if Lamar Jackson went to the Seahawks? Let's play,
Yeah.
So, regardless, at least the Ravens, he'll actually get paid. Basically for the franchise tag, you get paid on average, like to compare to every other. I think the top five or something quarterbacks, or top 5 or 10 quarterback salaries. So that's why it comes out to around 32.4 million in total. So it's not like he's getting paid less or getting paid more. He's getting paid the average.
Mm.
So hopefully that'll be something if teams came in to have him on their teams, and like Ravens say, "Hey, yeah, we'll accept," because if they do that, they're in rebuild mode, in my opinion, unless they get like a high enough pick to go get another quarterback. So highly doubtful. Next up, we have KC elect to not tag left tackle Orlando Brown Jr. The tag was apparently too high for their tastes, and they're still working out a deal, but he
Yeah,
could potentially be a free agent.
we should yeah, we should emphasize that you could still return to Casey. I mean, Casey cutting Frank Clark to free up, X amount of money is kind of it's a move that a lot of teams would make so that they can work out a long-term deal for someone that they can see in their future. And Orlando Brown Jr., I mean, they pitched a shutout in the Super Bowl, so obviously they have a lot of faith in this offensive line. I imagine that they're going to try to work out a deal for him long term.
Yeah, I mean, they have until March 15th before he can start listening to other teams. So he's still like I think like a restricted tag, if anything. So regardless, like right now, um, they have until March 15th. So they have another week. I think they're going to come up with something, probably push off the money hits later, if anything. Which honestly, for Casey, they should just do that. But that's just me. But we'll see what happens. But now there's some big news down in New Orleans. The Saints have chosen Derek Carr to be their quarterback. four
Every,
years, $150 million. What do you think?
they gave him a no trade clause too, which, if you recall, is kind of what put Raiders over the barrel. But I think they kind of know that Derek Carr, he's either going to end his career here, or he's probably going to be around for a little bit. So 100 million guaranteed,
Mm-hmm.
cap hit 7.5 million in 2023, which is very manageable given how cash strapped the Saints are.
Because they front loaded it a little bit. They gave him, I think it was like a 50. I think their signing bonus was like 50 something million. And then like an extra 10 million will come later, like just for making the roster. That's uh, why he'll get about like 70 million outside, and that's why his cap hit is very low this upcoming season.
Yeah,
But later
team.
on, that cap hit's going to hit them though. By the way, it's going to be 30 million, and then it's going to go up to 50 million, and then after that, it's a void year.
Didn't you
So
say like in one of the things that I think someone tweeted, they said that like part of his signing bonus is vested after year one and that he'll get in like year three. I'm like, God damn, over the cap is probably having a field day with this thing.
oh, over the cap actually broke it down too. So the short of it is it's 100 million guaranteed, 60 million fully guaranteed at signing. Um and then per PFT he received, okay, here it is. Derek Carr received a $28.5 million signing bonus as 23 and 24 base salaries are fully guaranteed. If on the roster in March of 24, $10 million roster, but I would like to get $10 million just to appear and be there, right? I would love $10 million. It's due in 2025, will become fully guaranteed. Another 30 million in salary in 25, and so on and so forth. But uh, they're assuming that there's a void year in there, but like we're just assuming that there's a void year in there in general. But regardless, they're pushing off a little bit of that cap hit. It'll just be the typical. I think it's supposed to be 35.7 million next year. Year after that, 45.7, and then 55.7 after that. So unless the Saints are about to go to the Super Bowl, I don't think you're going to keep him that full contract. I think they're going to let him go after some point if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. And, it's one of those things that they'll just have to wait and see because we really don't know what kind of offense this will be once they have like a stable quarterback. And I think that's probably what they're looking for. Because even when they brought in Jameis, he got injured in his very first year too. And so like they've been running this carousel for so long that I think fans are just eager to see what stability looks like and as a jumping off point. But guys around the team were excited. Cam Jordan was excited. Michael Thomas was excited. And so
Is Michael Thomas going to be with the team though?
that's the other thing I was when I saw Michael Thomas tweeted like "Yes, Lord" or something like that, But I was thinking to myself, are you even going to be on the team? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, they still got to do some cap magic on his end, but basically they still got to do some cap magic in general. But Jameis Winston's going to be out. That's going to be a cap casualty just because they have four QBs. What isn't it like four, maybe five if you want to include? No, it's four including Taysom Hill. So I think Jameis Winston's out the window. I think um, the Taysom Hill experiment is over. Finally, he'll stay as a. I think he'll be that gadget player, but I would rather you just use Derek Carr, especially if you're paying him this much money. So regardless, what do you think? How do you think the Saints are going to do? I guess with this, like, where do you see them right now in terms of next year?
Middling. I can see them middling. I mean, people are going to kind of return to the roles that they were. I mean, after Taysom Hill is going to go back to being the gadget player, like you said, slash backup quarterback. So they'll start doing that kind of thing again. Jameis Winston is probably going to be a cap casualty. So that'll kind of round that out in terms of how the team will perform. Like I can see like the 9-8 type of season because, which would be an improvement.
I think they're
Uh,
gonna. I believe they're actually gonna win that whole division, in my opinion.
Over the yeah, I can see that. That's
Be,
that's not
be,
that's not hard to believe because
Tom Brady
you're talking about
retired. Tom Brady
Saints.
retired.
Yeah, Falcons have a young quarterback.
Yep.
Panthers don't know who their quarterback is yet. So
Basically, so like, if anything, the Falcons will be your biggest one. If Desmond Ritter can make a sophomore comeback, right? Um, But I feel like that kind of puts them in the lead for the division. Now, where does that mean for playoffs? I'm not sure, but they have a defense. Although Cam Jordan is a huge cap hit for them too, so I think they're going to let Cam Jordan go too, in my opinion. Especially when he's as old as he is. He's like what, 36 now or something like that. Um, so it's one of those things where it's like, unless they say like, hey, right now this upcoming year is the year, which is why they made it to where his cap hit is 7.5 mil. I guess I'm wondering if they're going to try to go for, you know, all the marbles. Like, we're trying to go for that Super Bowl in that first year, because after that they have to definitely cut a lot of people off that team.
it's not how you build a team, is what with what the Saints have right here. So if
Hey,
they
the
can make,
Rams, the Rams just threw all their picks into something and got at least one Super Bowl. We ain't gonna talk about what happened after, but
I mean, Rams fans aren't. We will. We loved it.
oh, we enjoyed it, if you will. Um, Next big, but other than that, Derek Carr's and the Saints. We'll see how they do. I'm just predicting that they're gonna just win out the division. By how much, I don't know, but I think they're just gonna win the division in general. Giants, that team over there, up there in New York, they apparently tagged Saquon Barkley. So that's a $10.1 million thing for running backs. But then they signed Daniel Jones to that 4 year, $160 million deal with 82 million guaranteed at signing. And apparently there's an extra 35 million incentives as well.
I don't like it.
Why
That
was that?
well, let's start off with what gave him a lot of success last year. I mean, we talked about like, Giants kind of had like the same thing. I mean, it was just kind of ridiculous last year in terms of like the number of teams that had really good first halves, really bad second halves, or
Hmm.
vice versa. Cause I mean, like you can say like we were in there, Lions were on the other side, Panthers were on the other side, Jets, they had a good first half, Commanders, and it just seemed pretty wild. But $40 million a year, I think, or what is the annual cap?
Well,
Let's
that's
just say,
if you're just looking at that 160 and you're splitting it over the four, like that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
value of it.
lazy math. Let's just say 40 plus
Hmm.
million for Daniel Jones. I don't see Daniel Jones as like the franchise caliber quarterback that you give that kind of money to. I don't know about you.
I don't think I don't think it hits that hard for them as much as like I know the annual value will be like 40 million, right? But I think it's actually like below 35, and that's just like the incentives. I think that's like the part that's not guaranteed. So like I think it's what 82 million was guaranteed, so it's really 4 years and 78 million. So you can kind of split it up like that afterward in terms of what he can, he's going to get. Well, 82 million guaranteed, right? We don't, that one just recently happened, so we don't have a full breakup of that. We'll probably hit on that one next time. But this is what I was kind of saying like to you was that he definitely had, I'm not going to say a lot, but he had a little bit of leverage because they basically went to the playoffs, so they don't have a very high pick.
Hmm.
He showed them in his prove it year because they definitely refused his 5th year option, which was 20 something million. So this was his prove it year. He proved it.
If it wasn't no,
Um,
what did he prove though? Because like if it wasn't for if
what
he
do you
had
want to?
another
What would you like a quarterback to prove to you in their prove it year? Super Bowl?
no, 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 of course not. But what I'm saying is that if it wasn't for the fact that Brian Dobble was coach, if it was another year of Joe Judge, would he be anywhere near that ballpark?
Well, that's because that's the thing though. Like what we talked about before with quarterbacks was they need that system around. Like not saying they have to be a system quarterback, but they need that support system of a good coach, a good like they which that coach actually plays to their strengths. Which if correct me if I'm wrong, Brian Dabble did just that for the whole Giants team. He said, "I got to take what I have. I got to make some lemonade out of it." I actually made a pretty good drink because they went to the playoffs with it. I don't think that deal. I don't know what it depends on how they broke up this deal. I think it's still team friendly to the Giants as a whole, and they saved some time to think about what to do with Saquon Barkley, who also had like a pretty like a comeback year for himself as well. Not too sure on what that's going to look like for him, but I feel like Daniel Jones he earned, I think, his spot on the Giants because I don't know where he was going to go after the Giants. In all honesty,
And yeah, so I think that's like my thing is that like sure he earned his spot on the Giants, but he hasn't earned his he hasn't earned the check that puts him in the ballpark of like all the other great quarterback. Well, I mean he's obviously on the lower end of that still in terms of like what his average annual value is and that kind of thing. But the thing is that like Daniel, I mean, there's quarterbacks that win you games and there's quarterbacks that lose you games, right? And
mm-hmm,
Zach Wilson, we said is a quarterback that lost you a lot of games and that kind of thing. Like that's the extreme. Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback that can win you a lot of games, and that's the other extreme, right?
mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones is kind of like in a weird middle ground. In my opinion, I mean, if you look back on his last season, just looking at numbers, I mean, he had 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 3,000 yards, 3,200 yards.
Well, I'll
Not,
tell you this: he played better than Matthew Stafford, who also has $160 million deal.
but Matthew
120
Stafford is
million of it was guaranteed. I know, granted, that was after the Super Bowl win
But
too.
Matthew
So,
Stafford is also he has a resume, right?
mm-hmm,
Daniel
of not
Jones earned
winning.
his contract after 1 year, basically. Like we can agree on that, right? Like
Yeah.
Daniel Jones has earned his contract after 1 year.
That's
That's
actually think about that. You earned a 4 year, $160 million contract off of a year like this. You went to the playoffs and stuff. Is that not good, or is it also bad? Is
I
it both?
I so. is he replaceable? Is probably the following question, right?
I mean, did you want him to have like a similar deal to Geno's then, to where they just barely pay him and stuff like that at that
I
age?
think
Because
that's his fair value.
hmm,
Like, I mean, so 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. We talked about it week in and week out that team. We played them last year. We talked about that team. Right, lives and dies on Saquon's legs. Like we know that was the guy that was making that team successful. I would argue that that's probably why Daniel Jones had a lot of success in that last year too, is because he had a healthy Saquon again. Because last year, the prior year, he was still kind of coming back from that ACL tear and stuff like that, and so he was benefiting from that. But when you put up numbers like 15 touchdowns and 500 interceptions, you're kind of putting yourself in like the Sam Darnold kind of class in terms of your output, because we were talking about quarterbacks. There are like a lot of teams for some reason had like stellar first halves, shitty second halves, or vice versa. Panthers
hmm,
last year
hmm.
when Sam Darnold came in, mind you, traded away CMC. He came in for the last 6 games of the season, I believe, put up 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And extrapolate that out, if you put it over like a 16 game season, you're talking like 18, 19 touchdowns and similar comparable number of picks. And so that team, Sam Darnold, if Sam Darnold is extrapolating his numbers out and comparing him to Daniel Jones, is putting a better number than Daniel Jones, like what does that say about the echelon that Daniel Jones is in, right?
Well, at that, but that too. But at the same time, every year quarterbacks are going to get more expensive, whether we like it or not. So you know that, like,
Carson Wentz is being paid a lot.
right. And I want to tell you someone else that got paid a lot. Matt Ryan. He got $150 million
Well,
deal. 100 million of it was guaranteed.
we're looking on those deals in hindsight and saying they're not good, right? I'm
I
I'm
mean,
trying to I'm trying to leverage the it's
you
trying to
want
look
okay?
at
So
it
when the Colts
foresight.
took a 38-year-old Matt Ryan onto
Yeah,
their
that was a
team
bad
for the
one.
year, do you
Yeah.
are you telling me he was worth that $150 million deal?
He wasn't paid $150 million.
His total value for Matt Ryan was 150 million. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, yeah, no, but he got
I'm
paid
not
that
talking about
after.
whether he got paid fully or not. But I'm just saying
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah. Okay,
hundred million of it was guaranteed.
he did take him to a Super Bowl.
The
He wasn't.
Colts.
He was like an MVP caliber player leading up to that
Oh,
Super Bowl.
right, right. 'Cause,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
he
no, not.
hasn't been in the Super Bowl in the past like what couple of years before he went to the Colts. Wasn't like a couple of
Yeah, but
years.
I mean,
So,
Colts were just paying off the rest of his contract. They didn't give him what kind of contract did they give him? They
I
didn't give
forget.
him a contract. I thought I thought it was a trade.
I think that yeah, I think they're paying the rest of that. So right now, that contract, whatever's left, is about they're paying him 12 million. They pay him 12 million. What was it? Yeah, 18 million, and then they're paying him 35 million next year.
Yeah,
This up,
and
excuse me, not next year. This upcoming season, 35,
which they probably like if they can cut
and
him,
that's
they'll
the
cut him.
last of his
Yeah.
deal, by the way.
Yeah, and
So
so that was it wasn't like the Colts just went out and paid for him. Like, well, I mean, I don't know. Did they do the same with Carson Wentz? I think they just got the tail end of Carson Wentz's contract, but they gave up a lot of picks for Carson Wentz.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Colts are their whole other thing. But well, we're comparing this Daniel Jones contract to other bad decisions. So that in and of itself should kind of give you some indication of like the sentiment. Like you're putting yourself at risk is not the right word, but
I
there
think they
there
have a
is a
way to get out of that contract, knowing what they know about Daniel Jones. Again, I know we're just looking at the annual value of it on the 40
guaranteed
million.
money is guaranteed money. So that's that bit you can agree with. Like
Yeah,
you
but like
can
only
you
half of it's been guaranteed. But like if you want to compare it to, I just compare it to other salaries of other players that are similar to him. Like Dak Prescott got 160 million, but his was 126 million guaranteed as a
yeah.
whole, right? And I don't know how that's planned out for the Cowboys as of recent because he's the big cap. He's the largest cap hit for them this upcoming season. Matthew Stafford has a huge cap hit. We're still waiting to see what Josh Allen can do for the Bills. We're just waiting for that Super Bowl. They have a high expectation on them at this point, right? Chiefs is Chiefs. We know about the Chiefs. Deshaun Watson, he has to prove it.
Yeah,
Do
that's
you
a big
think?
one.
Do you think his
They gave
fully
him that
guaranteed $230 million
they gave
deal?
they gave him that. Well, see, the thing is that Deshaun Watson has a better resume than Daniel Jones too in terms of
Daniel
football.
Jones went to the playoffs. Where did Deshaun? Did Deshaun Watson
And
go to the
look up
playoffs?
Deshaun
One,
Watson's career numbers though. I mean, it's not even comparable.
there's career numbers and then there's wins. People care about those wins more so. That's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, and so well, I mean, if they care about those wins, just ignore the first 3 years of Daniel Jones's career.
Same thing with Russ. I mean, he did get a win, but you seen his deal too.
Yeah, that's
for the
true.
Broncos.
That well, that they did, that was there. So I think the only thing that we can agree on is bad decisions are just kind of rampant in the NFL.
We'll just see what happens with him in this next upcoming season. Will
Yeah,
he go up? Will he go down? Because it's not like he actually improved in terms of I'm not turning the ball over. Now it's
yeah,
just I'm not saying he needs to be the
the
arm
guy.
slinging like the guy for the team to like throw the ball like 50 times every game or anything like that. It just depends on, like you said, he needs that run game with him to
Yeah.
basically balance what he does. And I feel like they have that. If they have it one more season, they went to
Well,
the playoffs. They lost, but at the same time, they had an answer that the Cowboys didn't have. They went to the playoffs.
yeah. Well, Cowboys did too, but Brian Double,
I
I
don't
think
recognize them as a team anymore. So,
Brian Double has this. I mean, if there's one thing he could be credit, because I think what he did a lot for the defense on that team as well. But if
hmm
there's one thing that you can credit him with is that he stopped Daniel Jones from, I was saying like there's quarterbacks that lose you games and quarterbacks that win you games.
hmm
He like Daniel Jones was heavily leaning towards losing you games, but he kind of put a stop to that really quick. He made the game more manageable, and um, if I go back to like what if I think Daniel Jones is worth keeping around, if he's replaceable or not. If you're just trying to find a quarterback that'll coast and just do like the bare minimum of not losing you games or not winning you games, you might be able to find something like that out there. But they like you said, they have their way of getting out of this contract. If things kind of push comes to shove. But I think the bit that we were kind of glazing over is Saquon Barkley getting tagged. He did not like that.
yeah, I know. I think he wanted that one. Every running back wants that deal, especially
I
after
mean,
what they
look what
did for
happened to
a team.
Zeke. Like Zeke got his deal, and I mean, we talked about Derrick Henry, DeMarco
Well,
Murray. Like,
that's
there's
the issue,
examples.
right? Because we're shitting on a position that gets overused, and then the meta right now in terms of the NFL is to not pay a running back. Just throw away your running back, go get another one, just replace it. Keep
Yeah,
it low paying and all that type. The only way to keep it going is if you have a system where your running back doesn't get that much wear and tear on their system, and they can last like the good like 8 to 10 years in that position.
Frank
Um,
Gore.
Right. I don't know what Frank Gore did. He was the outlier of it all.
Yeah,
He said, "I just keep running. That's what you do. Just keep
yeah.
running." But yeah, so like getting only paid that 10.1 million, basically because Saquon was looking for a big payday after what he's done for them. But of course, injuries on injuries, people are gonna always, even on Twitter, people are always gonna say, "Yep, don't pay a running back. Never pay a running back. Actually, just throw them away and stuff." But everyone wants to make money too. So I can understand why Saquon Barkley is pissed, but it's just one of those things. He's tagged. Granted, a lot. I think isn't it where like teams can still do anything with this tag, or is it just kind of like a done deal, like you're with them for the next year
I
tag?
think it's an exclusive tag on Saquon Barkley. I'm not sure. I can
I think it was
probably look that
exclusive
up.
because you only get one good tag. Every team gets that one good tag to use, and so that's what I was also going to ask you was like, what did you want to do between Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley? Who are you going to sign, tag, or throw away?
Yeah, that's a kind of like a it's
You could throw
that's a
away
tough.
both.
Yeah,
You
and
just
that's
don't
the
have a
thing.
quarterback and a running back
Or a
then.
running back, then you basically are square one. That's the thing. That's a more important question, and maybe that might be the justification as to why they gave Daniel Jones the contract that they
They
gave
said
him.
we can work with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's great,
Yeah, but I
but we
mean,
can go sign another running back
yeah. What if they trade up just to get or Dijon
for
or Bijan?
Bijan
Sorry, Dijon.
Johnson.
I want a sandwich.
Man, who you telling? I'm about to go eat after this too, man. So, yeah, that's a giant situation. Basically, they have another good year with both Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Let's see if they can improve on their playoff run. If not, I think you can see Saquon Barkley leaving the Giants altogether, depending on the season he has.
Yeah, and he'd probably get paid. He'll have a maybe a good couple years, hopefully longer. But
I could see a 2 or 3 year deal in his future. Like it's paid enough to where it's like higher than the typical average, but like it's short enough to where like you're not hitting the team heavy or anything like that. So
yeah,
that's what I'm kind of seeing going forward. I don't know which team will need a running back by then, but right now, who knows, man.
yeah.
Um, Next up, we got the Commanders. This is a player they tagged, Darren Payne, who was the D tackle I wanted to
You wanted him
see.
so bad.
I wanted him on the like as our nose tackle so bad, and then you can put Puna Ford as like our defensive end somewhere else. But man, he had a career high 11 and a half sacks, 49 pressures, 20 QB hits. he had a pretty great year for them too. I don't think he made it. I think he had a Pro Bowl. Either he didn't make a Pro Bowl or he had a Pro Bowl year. Regardless, they tagged him. He'll be owed 18.937 million. And he'll be there with the Commanders for one more season because he's a really good D tackle. So hopefully, in their case, they want to get a long term deal done for him.
Yeah, and
What's your
I think
thoughts?
I think the Commanders' defensive line is just unreal, especially once they get actually a full healthy Chase Young back. So
Oh
the
yeah,
opportunity to, I mean, is it Montez Sweat is the other guy, or is
yes,
it Josh Sweat? I get them mixed up.
Montez Sweat.
I think Josh Sweat is on the Eagles. Maybe that's where I'm getting it mixed up.
Yeah,
But
Montez
yeah,
Sweat is who I wanted the Seahawks to get that one season, but they chose them. They chose them
yeah,
before us.
yeah. And so they got stars on that defensive line, and Ron Rivera is no stranger to having a monstrous D line.
They just need
For
a
those years,
quarterback.
and yeah. And so, just the quarterback. Yeah, and so, hopefully they can work out a number, but if they don't, Seahawks should give them a call.
That would be nice. Yes, indeed. And then did you hear what Taylor Heineke said? I don't know if I said this on the last episode or not because I don't know if it made it. But did you see what he said to like the I think either um to Pat or someone in the media
What do you say?
about his, he said like, man, I don't know about you, but like I don't mind being a backup quarterback. It's like the best job in the NFL.
Ain't no job better than a backup quarterback. It's almost a quarterback. It's almost as good as being a fired NFL head coach. Ain't no job better than being a fired NFL head
Oh,
coach.
if you were Kingsbury and
Yeah, I was
fired
about
and
to say, what's
still
Cliff
getting
up to?
paid?
Yeah, I don't follow Thai newspapers or Thai social media, but is he still out there? Is he okay?
Oh, he's living the dream right now. I would be on vacation too if I was getting paid every other week, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
where am I going next?
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
family, I'm in Bali. Hey, family, I'm in the Mollies. Look, I'm in these islands. But yeah, it's just one of the things with the Commanders and stuff like that right now. So they got themselves someone good in Darren Payne. Hopefully they can get him to a long term deal. Else, Seahawks, you better be on the lookout for Darren Payne because that is someone we will definitely add on our D line. If he was out there in free agency,
Oh
he would
yeah.
have got paid big time though too. That's why they definitely tagged him.
Uh-huh.
Next up, we talked about them before, but the Raiders they tagged Josh Jacobs, who led the league with 1,653 rushing yards. He also led the league in total yards from scrimmage, which was
That's partially
2,000,
thanks to us.
right? 2,053 yards total, and he has had three 1,000-yard campaigns in his 4 seasons in the NFL and was a first-team All-Pro selection. Yet
But
he
he's a
ends up with a tag.
Yeah, but he's a running back, so
They
he
don't value
probably
that
wants.
position.
Yeah, and so it's more just interesting to see what happens instead of speculating because the market for running backs is just kind of silly sometimes, but you can't argue with the fact how much running backs drop off after a few, like after 6 or 7 years, I would say at least.
Hmm. Pretty much, man.
Another running back that got tagged though, Tony Pollard.
Oh
25-year
man.
old. He recorded 1,300 yards, 14, almost 1,400 yards from scrimmage. Had 9 touchdowns, 12 on the ground, 12 in total. Most non-head ass Dallas Cowboys fans would say that's the Cowboys' best running back. Currently recovering from a broken leg, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was a broken leg, and from that, I think that was like their big telltale sign of whether to sign him or not. The only issue I have with it is what it- my only issue with it is just that like one, it's a devalued position. Two, he had a broken leg, or it wasn't like a broken leg. I think it was like a broken fibula or something like that
But which is
specifically.
basically like a broken leg.
Yeah. I don't even know what they would have gave him if he was healthy. In my opinion, I don't know
They're
what
kind
they
of
would have gave him.
they're kind of dealing with the ramifications of giving Zeke the contract that they gave him, right?
Yeah, because I think Zeke counts for about like Zeke is accounting for like 18 or 19 million of their cap next season, alongside 20 plus million from Demarcus Lawrence, as well as another I think 30 million, if not 29 million from Dak himself. So someone's gonna get cut at this stage,
And
and it's gonna be Zeke.
we mentioned a lot of teams that franchise tagged their running backs already, and they're all looking at that situation and thinking, like, seeing what kind of trouble Dallas is in. Because Zeke's production has clearly fallen off a cliff compared to his earlier years. I mean, he doesn't have the same offensive line that he used to have, but he also, I mean, you can't argue with the fact that he isn't producing as well as he used to. And so a lot of teams are looking at that situation and saying, like, hey, we can't commit the dollars because Zeke looked unstoppable, his first 4 years. Even behind a healthy offensive line, yeah, he was getting a lot of touches, but he was also not taking he wasn't taking a lot of heavy touches, I would say.
Mm.
He wouldn't, I mean, they would use him on the goal line, he would take body blows there, but a lot of those touches were in the middle of the field where, he had a lot of space to run out in front of him. And
It's just like the DeMarco, who was it? DeMarco Murray, like
yeah,
way back then with the Cowboys. It's one of those like they got their years out of Zeke. They got because Zeke has been in here for a little bit now. I think it was what 6, 7 years now.
I think something like 6 years. Yeah.
Because Dak's been here for 7, and then Zeke came after Dak, I believe. So I believe, yeah, yeah, he did. So you got your unfortunately like that window's up. Like you got to figure out if you can even win a Super Bowl with Dak right now, and it's one of those things where like the cap casualties and you can save a lot of money. You got to cut Zeke. Zeke hasn't really been the past 2 seasons. Even Skip will say so himself. He hasn't been
Skip.
giving the value. Come on, Skip, but he hasn't been giving them like the complete value that his contract dictates, and he just hasn't been the same. He's not even a good pass catcher at that. So it's really like his value isn't even that. If he was a good pass catcher alongside him running the ball, like
Then he'd be
Pollard,
Tony Pollard.
basically he would have got tagged. And but they didn't. They only tagged, as you can see, they only tagged one running back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Zeke is still under contract and that kind of thing. So
I would cut Zeke and take that dead money at this point because he's not helping you at all. In all honesty,
I think they keep him just because he's a warm body while Pollard is healing up. And then, once probably after the next season, his cap hit will, or his dead money will be a little bit less. They can cut ties and continue on with Pollard. But yeah, it's not a good situation to be in if you're a Dallas Cowboys fans for sure. Because then you're also thinking about, you know what do we do with Dak? Like, like he can produce, but he has his moments, right? And so they have a lot of question marks. Pollard is probably the least of which.
I mean, if anything, I think they're gonna probably let him go. This is my guess. This is just a me thing. I think they're gonna cut him after June 1st. They'll only have to worry about 5.8 million in dead money with saving 10.9 million in cap savings, and they need the cap space for the Cowboys. They're actually his salary isn't really guaranteed for this upcoming season, so that's also why I'm saying they're gonna cut him. Like his salary was guaranteed those first 4 years of his contract. His next four, zero.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it's
so then it's
it,
not as bad as I thought it was.
it's basically setting it up, and the Cowboys as a whole are getting hit. They're actually 16 million in the red right now. So if they can get any cap space back, guess where it's going to be?
Yeah.
They're going to start with that running back position and work elsewhere because yeah, here it is. Demarcus Lawrence counts for 26 million of their cap space. Dak Prescott is 49.13.
Yep.
And then Zach Martin is 19.89. Tyron Smith is 17.6. So they're going to get rid of like some of their offensive linemen too. That's like part of that old guard of the O line that was there. They're starting to phase them out. And then Ezekiel's at number 5 with a 16.72 cap hit.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
they got to make those. It's going to happen in those two, one of those two linemen. I think they're going to let go of Tyron Smith because after that injury, that major injury he had, he definitely was not the same lineman.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much they'll actually. Oh wow! So pre June, uh, for Tyron Smith, I'm not trying to go too deep into this. Basically, if they wait till post June 1st, they can get 13.6 million in savings, 4.4 million in dead money for Tyron Smith. I think they're going to cut Tyron Smith and Zeke, and that's going to have over 20 million, over 20 what 5 million in cap space given back to them. That's what's about to happen. So you're about to see some of your favorite players on that Cowboys team getting let go soon. Not
Yeah.
now, later.
I mean, it's a pill that these guys are gonna have to swallow, but we just hope that Jerry fucks it up. That's all we hope for.
That's what we always are. That's what we're always waiting for every single time. Let's wrap it up. Finally, for we talked about it with the Jags. Again, just to say that once more. Evan Ingram was tagged. I hope he has a great upcoming season with them. So I love to kind of see some tight ends break out. I actually like to see a player that had not much success on one team, but then they go to a different system or another team altogether, and then boom, they just success.
Yeah.
So
Are you
um,
saying Zach Wilson is going to have a successful career somewhere else?
he could, because everyone thought Sam Darnold was going to have a resurgence in the Panthers, but that didn't happen. So, we'll see what happens with him. He'll more than likely, Zach Wilson's just going to be a backup going forward, unless he finds a team that is really just quarterback
Desperate.
needy. Yeah, desperate, if you will. I think Mike White
Some desperate
he's
housewives.
Desperate Housewives. I think Mike White though is a free agent as well, and I think if I were the Jets, I would possibly try to sign him back. If not, some other team could obviously use Mike White because Mike White at least shown he can give you a good bridge quarterback play. If not, maybe if you actually have a team that actually works behind Mike White, you might even get it might be better, but who knows?
Who knows?
Finally, we're just going to wrap things up with some NFL Combine news that just recently wrapped. Unless you had something else.
No, we could wrap through this NFL Combine news pretty quick. I think from what it looks like, we talked about a few of these already.
Yeah. First off, the big one for Jalen Carter. For those that are not have been living under a rock, there was a an accident from a race from reckless driving and racing from Jalen Carter and another player from not a player but someone from the football team themselves, like the administration. Um, Apparently, he had a warrant out for his arrest initially. He turned himself in and wanted to say on the board like I'm exonerated from all of these charges. None of this is true. The only charge that he had, Jalen Carter himself, though, was just for reckless driving and racing. While the other driver is where the two people you probably heard about that passed, which was an offensive lineman that was 20, as well as the driver himself that was, I believe, 24, driving
Yeah, I
over
think he was a
100
staffer.
miles. Yeah, he was a
Yeah.
staffer, so he was driving like 104 miles, and his blood alcohol levels was double the illegal amount in Georgia at 0.197 when it's 0.08 for the legal amount. So, in terms of like Jalen Carter didn't really kill anybody. So, let's just put that out there. But he was part of a whole accident doing stupid things. I will say this. Um, if anyone out there, like you have a talent, a God given talent, anything like that, I don't care if your team, your school went, for the nationals and all that stuff. Sure, have fun, but if you know you're going to the playoffs or not playoffs, if you know you're going to the NFL and you're a top one or two, like you're up for literally like that first contract alone can change you and your family. I don't screw that up. Please
It
don't.
it really just kind of speaks to a lot. Like character is an important thing that the teams are evaluating a lot now, right? I mean, we've been burned on it too, like with Malik McDowell, where he kind of just had like this random ATV accident doing something dumb. It's not. It's in your own best interest to just no matter what you do, is always to surround yourself by like better people, keep yourself in good situations and stuff like that. This was clearly not a good situation. Alcohol was involved. It was street racing, so I mean, even though he wasn't directly involved with the accidents, he was still a part of the situation, and
Hmm.
he promoted the situation, I guess you would say. It does reflect poorly on you, and so it affects your bottom line at the end of the day, and it affects the lives of those around you in this situation.
Yeah,
So
I just don't know if I still think he'll since he actually paid that $4,000 bond and was released, and he actually came back to Indy and finished up his interviews and combine interviews and activities. Now I don't know. What I don't know is if that will lower him at all in any fashion. I don't know. He's one of those like blue
it
chip
just puts
players
it
where
it
they
just
put
puts
that
it
play over that.
yeah, it just puts an asterisk when it comes to character, because character is already a thing that was kind of like brought up with Jalen Carter as well, and then you add this onto it, and so I mean he'll probably still go high, but just I mean as a general PSA, always just be smarter.
Yeah, yeah. Next up, we have USC offensive lineman Andrew Voorhees. He suffered a complete ACL tear. I
You
believe
hate to see it.
I forgot what that was. It was from one of the drills and stuff he was doing. Got a complete ACL tear. Who was a top 100 prospect. I think he's a tackle. But the funny thing, well, not funny thing, funny enough, he still went to the bench press afterward and pressed 38 reps of 225 pounds with one leg on the ground after injury. So, I mean, that still tells you something, but at the same time, you hate to see it.
Yeah.
Same for this other offensive tackle from Oklahoma, Wanya Morris, named after Boys to Men. Wanya Morris, by the way, suffered a grade 2 hamstring while running the 40-yard dash, which I actually did see that footage. Um, I don't know when. Here's my thing. A lot of people have been talking about how some of these drills and activities at the combine, they don't really show you, like, I don't know what a 40-yard dash will show you besides maybe acceleration, in my opinion, and speed. But like, why does an offensive lineman need to run a 40-yard dash?
Yeah. I feel like that's I feel like a lot of those questions are going to be asked now. Is like, why are we testing? Like, what is the point of them doing a vertical, right?
What's the point of doing a vertical? It's sure you can show off like talent and strength and all that type of stuff, but
What are you
whatever
trying to
have you.
measure at the end of the day? Because maybe that's why some players opt out of doing certain activities, right?
Some people just opt out. I've seen some people opt out of, like, I saw another offensive lineman, I forgot his name, but he opted out of the combine the morning of because his ankle was swollen or something like that, like when he woke up in the morning. So it's just like he was actually scheduled to do everything, but he did not go and do everything. So regardless, for Andrew Voorhees, though, not Andrew Voorhees, for Wanya Morris, he will actually still be ready for some private workouts in April when those come about, because the grade 2 hamstring injury, or that grade 2 hamstring, only lasts about like 3 to 5 weeks at most. Could be less depending on what he does. But hey, at the end of the day, this is not the end of the road
You
for
were
this
waiting
man
for
right
that.
here. I was
You
so
were
waiting
waiting
for
for
that.
that.
Nah, it was bad. It was bad. This is why you don't put me in a group, y'all. And then finally, like the biggest one of the I already talked about we already talked about Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker, who's on track for the start of the season opener. I'm not sure where he'll probably be one of those quarterbacks that go late, which maybe
Take a
Seahawks will take a
flyer.
look at if he's good enough. But I know the injury concerns is one thing because ACLs. Um, and then also one final for me on my end, one final draft story I got here is Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson, who, besides like the typical stuff you do at quarterback, like throwing the ball out to the receivers, like he can throw some dimes out there. Not a lot. I've even from like his footage from like Florida, but he can bomb a pass out there. But did you see that man on the vertical and the broad jumps though? Like 40 feet and a 40 foot 5 inches for the vertical, which is a best ever by a quarterback, by the way. And his broad jump, yet again, 10 feet and 9 inches, best ever by a quarterback in this whole system. And he ran a 4.44 at a
Yeah, I
four for the
mean, like
40.
he complete like it was one of the definitely one the standout of the combine. I think a lot of teams took notice to him.
Yeah, man. Yeah, 6'4", 244 pounds. I mean, at the very least,
He's got the size, he's got the frame for it.
yeah, he'll shoot up again. He'll shoot up the draft stock. I wonder where he'll go or to who, but at the very least, I would. There should be some consideration for teams to invest in a quarterback and have them sit for 1 to 2 years. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I mean that's like the
Um,
model every team should follow.
right. Did you have anything else for us before we have our send offs?
Nope, just there were we did talk about one player in specific when we were looking at centers, and that was John Michael Schmitz, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmitz. He from the center from Minnesota. He was kind of touted as like the top center in the draft. He kind of had himself a day out there at the combine as well. No numbers in particular, like with Anthony, like we had with Anthony Richardson or anything like that, but he is kind of solidifying himself as one of the top center prospects. So it's just one of the names to keep an eye on as we are hopefully in the market for a young center to come in and take over for us. We don't want any more vet centers at the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I think centers are going to start going off the board sometime. I say mid to late second round. Um, I don't know where else he would go. I don't think he'll fall to like early third. I think early third at most is where he'll fall to, but like it depends on when every team starts taking a center, which I'm going to say as high as mid second and then going down from there, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully we have 2 second round picks, so hopefully that's why I've always been saying hopefully we can score him as our center because we definitely don't have a center because our center retired. Um But yeah, hopefully we can get him because he's on my board. I don't
Yeah,
know when to pick him. I'm going to take a look at some of these mock draft simulators out here, and I'm definitely going to try to see when we like how like when will he eventually go and when the Seahawks should get them. So we'll take a look into that.
yeah.
But
I think that's all we had for NFL Combine news. So any last send offs before we sign off here?
I'm just wondering what's going to happen in free agency because all of this prep work that's been done, you see a lot of teams like, cutting people so they can get some cap space. I want to see what, especially for the Seahawks, what we will do. I think at most we're going to sign like 2 to 3 people and then save that cap, whatever left of that cap. And then actually, I think you have to already put a lot of that cap space to, I think it's like $1 million per pick you have to put towards the for the rookies. But regardless, I think we're gonna probably get, actually, when I'm thinking about that, we might actually not even sign three. We might sign 1 to 2 players at most, but Seahawks can prove me wrong. But hopefully we get B Wags though.
Yeah. For me, I mean, that's all I that's all I was hoping for in this upcoming week is that we come back to you next week and we say Bobby Wagner is coming home.
That's a dream right there, man. But other than that, that's it from us here at Misreps Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Of course, it's just, if you could just rate us in 5 stars on all the podcast platforms. Come on YouTube, share this video, put like and subscribe on that YouTube because we're here now. We're here. We ain't going anywhere. So just make sure you follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at our handle at Misreps. And we hope to see you again next week. Peace.